if you're using affirmations to try to manifest stuff, and you are not also working with this thing behind me here, which is the Hawkins scale of vibrational alignment, basically, and especially if you have any kind of complex trauma, any kind of trauma, especially complex trauma, then you are basically going to be finding, for the most part, that using affirmations doesn't actually work very well for you, because of the fact that most likely, if there's something that you are trying to manifest and there is any kind of basically subconscious trauma that's attached to things that relate to what it is that you're trying to manifest, and the affirmations that you're using trigger the trauma, basically, then your body's going to automatically block it out, okay? And this is why working with energy and utilizing various different trauma healing techniques is going to serve you much better in the long run than just repeating affirmations in the hope that they'll go in and basically just sort everything out and act as some kind of sticking plaster on what effectively is the energetic equivalent of a broken leg and make everything work. And this is like, literally, this is the main reason why when people are working with affirmations that they don't work. Now, a lot of the time, the trauma that you're holding, if you had trauma that happened in childhood and you have no like conscious memory of it, essentially what you're going to be finding is that you can't understand why all of the affirmations aren't working, and then you basically turn around and say, well, affirmations just don't work. The simple fact of the matter is that affirmations do work, but only if you are actually in a state or at the top end of this scale with the affirmations that you are actually working with. Now, as you can see, if you look at this, if I get out the way slightly, you've got shame down the bottom and enlightenment up the top. And there's a sliding scale. You've probably seen this before. It comes from a book called Power versus Force by Dr. David Hawkins, which is, you know, really well known in personal development circles. One of the first books that I read when I actually first started working with energy. And this was like, I think I bought it back in 2015, something along those lines, so quite a while ago. He wrote another one called Letting Go as well, which is kind of useful and also sort of not, because he doesn't really go into the complexities of how to let go of trauma. With that, he just basically recommends being present with it. It can be a little bit more than that from the point of view of if it's buried, if it's really trapped underneath layers and layers and layers of stuff. If there's complex trauma, then it's a bit more complicated than just sitting with an emotion, because the chances are that you've got the emotion so deeply buried in your subconscious that you're not even aware of the fact that that it's there, if that makes any sense. But you'll notice when it gets triggered by things, because those will be the things that make you feel really frustrated, put you into fight or flight mode, like noticeably. One of the things that you can do, okay, if you don't already know how to muscle test, one of the things that you can do with any affirmation that you're planning on using is you can literally muscle test on where your physical body is vibrating in relationship to this scale, basically, with the affirmation in question. So, for example, say you're using the affirmation of I am rich or I am a millionaire, okay? If you muscle test along this scale, you're going to find out, and you need to make the statement of I am vibrating at the frequency of shame in my body in relationship to the statement I am a millionaire, I am vibrating at the frequency of guilt, and so on and so forth. And muscle test, you can use a sway test, you can use a finger pull. There's like, if you've got a friend, you can use applied kinesiology with the arm, basically. And you'll be able to see by doing that whereabouts you are in relationship to that from an embodiment perspective. Now, in order for you to be able to manifest something easily, your nervous system, in actual fact, needs to be vibrating right up the top end of the scale with this, okay? And it needs to be sustainable. This is why we do trauma work. Highly important. Now, it's important when you're doing trauma work to find a modality that actually works for you, to work with practitioners who you resonate with. It's one of the things that my Akashic Reboot 11 deals with. Basically, there's details within the course on how to work with it to deal with all of this stuff. Pretty much all of my work addresses this in various different ways, shapes and forms. If you're not into signing up for Reboot 11 and you're not resonating with my stuff in general, do please go and find yourself a decent practitioner who works with modalities such as, you can utilize EFT. There's all sorts of things actually you can use, but anything that's going to basically work beyond just going into the chakras. Okay, for energy, if you're looking at energy workers who only work within the chakras, that's not going to work for you. You need to be working with people who actually have the skills to like create shifts at the cellular level within you, okay, or teach you how to do that. This is something I teach. It's something I actually do with people as well. I have a great program called the Magic Zone. You're very welcome to check all of this stuff out in the Stan Store, which is at the top of my page. Okay, there's links in there. There's quite a lot of stuff that's not in my Stan Store, so if you wanted to send me an email to ask about what other options there are, you can. But yeah, essentially, if there is something that you are not manifesting, you've been religiously using affirmations to try and align yourself with it and it's not working, it will be because you are in relationship to that thing vibrating somewhere down the bottom end of this scale that's rotating behind me. Basically, in relationship to that thing, in relationship to that statement, effectively, what the affirmation will be doing is triggering your nervous system into survival mode because of the trauma. Do you see what I'm saying? So yeah, super, super, super important that you're aware of this, because none of us operate just on one frequency all the time. You can be one of these people that like thinks of yourself as really high vibe and all the rest of it, but in actual fact, maybe you've got a very traumatized relationship with money to do with your childhood or to do with a relationship that you've been through or something. And when you are not addressing that trauma and actually dealing with it from the roots and dealing with it from the point of view of your nervous system, as well as your limbic system and like all of these other bits to do with your body, then your body will continue to block out the reality that contains the manifestations that you want because of the fact that it's too threatening to you. If you want to know more about all of this stuff, you can feel free to send me an email asking about ways that you can work with me, and like, subscribe, do all of the things with this video, because I do put out videos about all sorts of interesting shit like this. I also do a podcast called the Be the Cake podcast. I would love to connect with you further. I'm sending you so much love. Mwah. Bye for now.